In the forgotten sands of history there are truths that were once whispered in secret, hidden away from the eyes of the masses, truths that carried the fragrance of eternity. And one such truth surfaced in 1945 when a peasant from Nag Hammadi in Upper Egypt unearthed a jar made from red clay containing 13 ancient manuscripts bound in leather, texts that later came to be known as part of the Nag Hammadi library. And among them was the mysterious Gospel of Thomas, a collection of sayings attributed to Jesus that had been suppressed and hidden away for centuries, kept from the mainstream narrative of Christianity. For when Emperor Constantine convened the Council of Nicaea in 325 AD, the leaders of the Church carefully decided which writings would be canonized as the New Testament and which would be silenced, removed, or destroyed. And among those removed were the Gospel of Thomas, the Gospel of Mary, and the Book of Enoch, writings that contained knowledge too powerful, too liberating, and too divergent from the path of centralized control and authority that institutional religion sought to establish. And so humanity was given a version of truth tailored for obedience, not liberation, edited for uniformity, not for awakening. Yet truth has a way of resurfacing, and so the Gospel of Thomas has returned to us in fragments and whispers, inviting those with ears to hear to step into a deeper mystery of existence. Jesus once said, "Whoever discovers the interpretation of these sayings will not taste death," and in this statement lies the seed of the infinite. The reminder that we as beings of light and spirit are eternal, that death as we perceive it is but a transformation, not an end, that what binds us to decay and sorrow is ignorance, and what liberates us into eternity is knowledge of the self, knowledge of the inner kingdom. In these suppressed sayings we do not see a teacher seeking followers who bow beneath him. We see instead a master seeking to awaken equals, leaders who would rise together as co-creators of divine reality. For Yeshua never intended to build an empire of control but a family of light, a movement of awakened souls walking in unity, understanding the power within, and living in harmony with the eternal Father. He taught that the kingdom of God is not in the sky that birds will reach before us, nor in the sea where the fish will go before us, but rather the kingdom is within us and all around us. For when we come to truly know ourselves we will be known. And in knowing ourselves we recognize that we are children of the living Father. But if we fail to know ourselves we dwell in poverty though we may surround ourselves with riches, and that poverty is spiritual blindness, the poverty of not realizing who we really are. The Gospel of Thomas presents us with a Jesus who reminds us that our faith shapes our reality, that belief is the key that unlocks miracles. For when he returned to his hometown Nazareth he could do no mighty works there because they did not believe. Not because his power had diminished but because the doorway of faith had been shut by their unbelief, showing us that divine power does not force itself upon us but flows where it is welcomed, activated by the recognition of truth within. He said that the one who seeks should not cease until he finds, and when he finds he will be troubled, and when he is troubled he will be amazed, and then he will reign over the all, teaching us that the path of discovery is not always comfortable, for truth unsettles us, breaks the illusions we have clung to. But in that breaking we find astonishment, and in that astonishment we find the authority of a soul that has remembered its origin, a soul that knows it is eternal, a soul that no longer fears death, a soul that reigns over illusion by the sheer recognition of truth. Religion in its original essence means religare, to return to oneself, to reconnect with the divine essence already within. But over time religion became a structure of rules and hierarchies that often distracted from the inner journey. Yet Jesus in these sayings calls us back, saying, "Be as I am, not beneath me but beside me, for I am the way," not as an idol to be worshipped but as an example to be followed, as a mirror showing what you already are, as a path showing that the kingdom is already at hand, already within, already spread upon the earth though many do not see it. He told his disciples that unless you understand the beginning you will not understand the end, for the beginning and the end are one, reminding us that time as we perceive it is an illusion, that the eternal is here and now, that past and future are folds of experience but not ultimate reality, and blessed is the one who reaches the beginning, who returns to the source, for that one will not taste death. These teachings push us to see beyond the surface of things, to realize that the light exists within us, that a man of light shines and lights up the whole world, and that we are children of that light, chosen not by hierarchy or decree but by existence itself, by the living Father who animates all things. And from this realization flows a deep sense of responsibility. For if we bring forth what is within us, it will save us. But if we do not bring forth what is within us, if we suppress our true calling, our divine spark, then that suppression will destroy us. For the unlived life, the silenced soul, creates an inner death greater than physical death. Jesus reminds us that washing the outside of the cup while ignoring the inside is foolish, for the one who made the outside also made the inside, meaning our inner life and outer life are mirrors. What we are within manifests without, and the way we treat others, the choices we make, the way we extend love or hatred outward is a direct reflection of how we treat our own souls inwardly. So the path of transformation begins not in the external rituals alone but in the purification of the heart, the awakening of the inner kingdom, the union of spirit and matter, the harmony of inner light with outer action. This is the core essence of the Gospel of Thomas, a call not to follow blindly but to awaken boldly, not to surrender individuality but to embody divinity, not to build walls of dogma but to open doors of inner realization, a path that was once silenced but now whispers again in the ears of those willing to listen, saying, "Seek and do not cease until you find, for what you find will amaze you and that amazement will crown you with eternity." The hidden gospel continues to unfold its wisdom like a flame in the night, illuminating truths that religion sought to conceal, truths that restore our awareness that each of us carries within the spark of divinity, the eternal seed of light that makes us not servants in chains but children of God, co-heirs of the kingdom, carriers of infinite potential. And in this realization the old illusions begin to dissolve, for the kingdom is not a faraway land reached after death. It is not a distant paradise to which only a chosen few are admitted. Rather, the kingdom is here and now, spread upon the earth, accessible to all who open their eyes, yet unseen by those still blind to their inner reality. The Gospel of Thomas challenges us to abandon the search for God solely in the heavens or in distant rituals and to turn inward where the divine presence resides eternally, whispering in the silence of our souls, guiding through intuition, speaking through dreams, shining in moments of compassion, and moving us with the fire of love. When asked where the kingdom was, Jesus replied, "It is spread out upon the earth and people do not see it." And in these words lies a staggering truth, that the veil of ignorance is not because the divine is absent but because our perception is clouded, our hearts weighed down by material distractions, our minds filled with noise. Yet the moment we silence the storm within, the kingdom reveals itself, shimmering in every breath, in every act of kindness, in the stillness of meditation, in the flow of intuition, in the unity of consciousness that connects all beings as one. The teachings of Thomas invite us to reclaim our wholeness, to integrate spirit and matter, reminding us that if we give ourselves entirely to material possessions we will forget our true essence, and yet if we deny the material entirely we also fall into imbalance, for matter itself is energy, a form of spirit manifest, and the true path is union, not rejection, the weaving of inner and outer, the dance of light and form, the marriage of heaven and earth within the human soul. In this way the Gospel of Thomas echoes ancient wisdom across cultures, wisdom that says know thyself and you will know the universe, wisdom that reminds us that to study is often to remember what we already know deep within. For everything new is but a well-forgotten old, everything already exists in the eternal now, and our journey is not to invent but to rediscover, not to create truth but to awaken to the truth already here. This awakening is not without challenge, for as Jesus said, the one who seeks will be troubled. And truly when we peel back the layers of illusion the first taste is often bitter, for it unsettles the world we thought we knew, it shakes our beliefs, it confronts us with responsibility, it asks us to abandon the comfort of ignorance, yet beyond that troubling comes amazement, the awe of recognizing the vastness of existence, the joy of realizing we are not abandoned fragments but radiant sparks of the infinite, and in that amazement we find authority, the authority of a soul that remembers its origin in light. The Gospel of Thomas thus becomes not merely a collection of sayings but a mirror reflecting our deepest essence, a compass pointing us back to our origin, an invitation to live not in fear but in freedom, not in submission to external hierarchies but in communion with the divine within, and in doing so to recognize the divinity in every other being, to treat them not as inferiors but as equal children of the same living Father. This teaching dismantles the illusion of separation, reminding us that inferiors and superiors are constructs of ego, not reality, for in truth there is one light expressed in infinite forms, one consciousness shining through countless eyes, one love pulsing in countless hearts, and in that realization we begin to build a world not of domination but of unity, not of fear but of compassion, not of chains but of wings. Jesus emphasized movement and stillness, polarity and balance, teaching that existence flows between opposites, that time and timelessness dance together, that to realize eternity is to see beyond both, and in that paradox lies the infinite growth of the soul, for to be human is to walk the line between matter and spirit, between light and shadow, between finite form and infinite essence, and in that dance we discover the richness of existence, the beauty of being, the miracle of consciousness. This message, once silenced, now returns to stir the hearts of seekers, to ignite the flame of remembrance, to call us not to blind faith but to living knowledge, not to passive worship but to active awakening. For the Gospel of Thomas does not command us to bow but to rise, not to wait for the kingdom but to see it now, not to fear death but to embrace eternity, not to separate inner and outer but to unite them in one luminous wholeness. And so we are left with the profound realization that each of us is the path, each of us is the truth in motion, each of us is life itself unfolding, and no one can dictate how we must interpret these sayings, for interpretation is as unique as the soul itself, and the living word speaks differently to each heart. In the end, the Gospel of Thomas reminds us that the greatest miracle is not walking on water or turning water into wine, but awakening to who we are, children of light, eternal beings clothed in temporary flesh, sparks of the infinite flame, and when we live from that remembrance we bring heaven to earth, we embody the kingdom spread upon the world, and we taste not death but life everlasting.